this content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill
Wait
no
a
one.
second.
No.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings, you're watching SeptumSin versus the World. I'm SeptumSin. This is Kotobukijake.
Hi.
We're here to show you, well, we're not here to show you anything. We're just here to tell you about what we watched in December.
Right.
It's over until we say it's over. So you get to hear all about that December viewing.
Actually, in the spirit, there you go. We still have our tree up.
Sundown. If you see me wiping my eyes and stuff like that, it's because I'm having to cut up onions during this.
Huh.
So I'm multitasking as we go through it all. But when Jake's talking about his various ones, having it in two pane as it is, I can then put the movie poster up over my face when I'm talking about when Jake's talking about something, and then over his face when I'm talking about something, and
seems like a plan.
That way it'll work out to the best. So I'm gonna mute my mic because I don't think y'all want to hear the chop 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 chop. It's like a couple of his start outs for the month.
All right. Well, if you recall, we ended November with Robert Zemeckis' classic Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But in preparation for that, I did not have much time to really get into the disc. And while I'm not particularly good at watching all my bonus features, it's hard enough to watch the main attraction. I do like to at least watch all the films included, which means if there are short films, I try to watch them. So I kicked off December with a pair of short films and then followed up a few days later with the third one from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. These were the ones that originally aired opposite or in the beginning of various other Paramount, Touchstone pictures. Tummy Trouble, I believe, was from Dick Tracy, and I believe Roller Coaster Rabbit was from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Or I might be getting those mixed up. And then, fittingly enough, Trail Mix Up was from some other movie. But I went ahead and watched all three, and they're good fun. I mean, if you watched our discussion, you heard my comments, you know that I find this particular brand of comedy cartoons to be excessively ultra-violent, but on the other hand, it's basically what I grew up with. I grew up with the Looney Tunes. I grew up with Hanna-Barbera and Disney, and particularly the Looney Tunes were violent as friggin' hell. And the old Tex Avery stuff, too. So Roger Rabbit fits right into that. And honestly, at this point, I'm having trouble remembering the details of these. Roller Coaster Rabbit, obviously they're at an amusement park, and the world's craziest roller coaster is, of course, featured. Trail Mix Up was sort of a camping-themed one. Tummy Trouble, I think, was more of like a domestic set one. And, of course, they all feature Roger and Baby Herman. They all have cameos by Jessica Rabbit. they're fun. Yeah. Glad I got them watched. Glad I got to watch the main show once again and back in November. And yeah, good to go. Yeah. What to you?
Yep. So, Christmas viewing. So, of course, I ended with some Christmas viewing in November because, after Thanksgiving, I usually go through a lot of my Christmas stuff. And like I said, I've been working on those onions as we speak in there. So, getting all those minced up. But I had some pretty good stuff I continued with. And I continued with two things that I had wanted to see. And 12/1, when I got off of last year's, well, actually year before last, because it was 2020's Vinegar Syndrome sale, was Christmas Evil. Now, Christmas Evil was one that I'd wanted to see, but I got it too late because the shipping for it came like way later than what was needed. Matter of fact, I saw What Movie One's video that he did like last week where he finally got his Black Friday order. So time may vary. So Christmas Evil is about this guy. It's an older film. It's about this dude who is in a toy factory. And he had this traumatic experience where he saw mommy kissing Santa Claus. Well, more than doing that. And he just got this kind of fascination with Christmas and the old man, and eventually ends up having a blowout to where he goes out and kills a lot of people. Very reminiscent of Silent Night, Deadly Night, similar stuff like that. Pretty well done. I like the imagery on it. Kind of reminds me, I'm guessing She Was So Pretty was influenced by Christmas Evil because I can tell a lot by the art direction, cinematography, very similar to the two. Especially Be Good for Goodness Sake, which is more of a Christmas one. So if you haven't seen Christmas Evil and you like the Silent Night, Deadly Night type series or Black Christmas, you'll probably like Christmas Evil. I also went ahead and I had saved this. I'd watched the Costume Quest animated series, which is about a bunch of kids who they put on costumes and they can gain the power to become the characters they imagine in the costumes. And it's based off of the video game, which is quite fun. I did part of a playthrough on this channel. The Christmas special keeps up with that, where they're having a big old Christmas spectacular, and there are a couple of things in play, one of which is somebody who's trying to find evidence of these monsters existing, and there's still a few of them left over from the monster portal, and there's at least one trying to open up the portal again to cause havoc and mayhem in the town, and of course the kids are the only ones that can save them. It's a pretty cool experience. I really enjoyed Costume Quest. For those who like a simple, fun animated experience, you should check it out. But that finished up my Costume Quest watching, but I had to save that holiday one to this time because it was a Christmas one.
Good deal.
Give you a few more while I cut another onion.
Oh, well, I've got one to feature film to throw in there. I'm going to take a minute to get into the Christmas themed stuff, not jumping into it quite as quickly as he did. But the first one, the first feature on my list, is one that we randomly ended up watching. Honestly, Mom got a copy from the library and really wanted to watch it, and we all were like, sure, let's do it. And I've actually presented this one as a recent pickup because I found it at the Dollar Tree like a week later, and I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and get that. Why not? And that was a film, an historical drama, if you will, about the life and times, essentially, more accurately, the times leading up to his breaking from the Catholic Church of the minister Martin Luther way back in Germany back in the day. He is played by Joseph Fiennes in the film. And you've got an impressive backing group of people, including such folks as Alfred Molina, who is a rival priest, and several other folks, and then notably Peter Ustinov, the very acclaimed actor from back in the day. I believe it was his last live action role. It was one of his last roles prior to his death. And he plays the names are escaping me at the moment, but he plays basically the leader of the region who essentially what's the word I'm looking for? Enables Luther's less than orthodox ideas. Let's put it that way. And so essentially it's a film about the origins of the Reformation, even though it doesn't quite go that far, doesn't quite get to that point. But it's essentially about the origins of the Reformation. It's a decent film. It could have been done better, but it is still done reasonably well. And for people who are interested in the history of things, it's definitely a good watch. And Fiennes does do an excellent job in the role. And again, Ustinov is actually he's a hoot to watch in that movie. So it's good times.
All right. So on the third, I watched a short film classic called Night of the Krampus. I've talked about this. It is a cute little short film about these paranormal investigation team of these people who are supposedly dead. And there's like a talking skeleton guy and this dude who's apparently this undead hero of sorts. And they're having to track down these kids who were abducted by what seems to be Krampus. And Krampus is being controlled by some sort of dude who really doesn't like children. So he's having Krampus he's having them experience a Krampus incident in town. So they got to figure out how to defeat him and get Krampus back in his own control of himself. It's a cute little feature, low budget, tongue-in-cheek humor. Not too bad. Shot on video style almost. Something that's just fun. I like watching it on occasion. I got a lot of Krampus films. I don't have as many as, say, Alice in Wonderland or stuff like that, but I do have a number of those. And one that we can both do real quick is Nightmare Before Christmas, which I watched on the 4th. Yes, Kat.
I watched it thereabouts.
And, that's a simple enough one. If you haven't seen it, then, it is a classic to watch either Halloween or Christmas. I think it could go for either. Or any time in between, really. Or any time, because it's a pretty kick-ass film. Tim Burton is credited for the most part of it. And, excuse me. And, what's that?
Well, I was going to say, which is a very controversial position because Henry Selick was the director.
Oh, yeah.
Over the years. There's been a lot of back and forth over that.
Yeah, but when people say Nightmare Before Christmas, it is sadly not his name that is spoken. It's Tim Burton's name. And that style has been associated with Tim Burton. Really,
true
for the whole of it. That's a nice little musical about the Halloween town and kind of an opposition of the Christmas town and the Rankin Bass tradition. And they are one of their denizens. Jack Skellington has his Christmas epiphany. I mean, when he is kind of tired of the same old every year. We all have that wear out after a while, and so
talking about your undead talking skeletons.
Yeah. So we talked about it on Inside Movies Galore, but I thought I would also. It's a good one. I feel like it's played a lot, and I don't get into it as much as a lot of people do anymore these days because I've seen it so many times. But what about you, Jake? Any other thoughts on Nightmare Before Christmas?
Oh, it's a good times. And we, again, we did have a good discussion on it. I think we were reasonably in agreement that it was a good quality feature. And some truly excellent classic songs involved there. And, like you said, a stop motion picture in the Rankin Bass tradition. And yet, strangely enough, not as creepy as most of the Rankin Bass films.
Well, Santa wasn't talking about having kids sit on his lap and kiss him.
Right. But, and actually, that's a good lead into the next two I have. Because, again, I'm trying not to put stuff away without watching the films. So I don't know if you watched these as well, but there were two short films on there. One is Vincent. It's about a young boy who pretty much idolizes Vincent Price. And if I remember correctly, Mr. Price narrates the film. And that was one of Tim Burton's first stop-motion short films. It may have been his first proper one. Because he did some, films, I use the term loosely, before Disney had him on their payroll. But as an animator at Disney, he started making actual films. And another one that's also on the collection is the original Frankenweenie, which he remade as a short film, but which in the original is actually a live action with a much, much younger Daniel Stern and also Shelley Duvall playing the kids' parents. It's a fun movie. I never thought the Frankenweenie story was near as touching and heartwarming as Tim Burton clearly does, but I still think it's kind of fun. And both of those films are worth a watch. They were nice little last gasp, I guess, before I started getting into the Christmas stuff. And now he's wandered off. Well, I'm trying to think if I had anything more to say on those two. Really, not much. Did you watch those two films?
Not this time around, but I've seen them.
Okay.
I have the Steelbook, the 4K Steelbook that they released.
Okay.
Not 4K, just Blu-ray Steelbook that they released this past, whatever. I think it was 2019 they released it. And it was kind of cool. It was really cheap on a Black Friday sale, so I got it. So I've seen the Vincent one, I think back then. And then I saw the Frankenweenie one on Frankenweenie's disc a while back.
Oh, yeah, that was included on that. Yeah. So I had seen that, so...
Which is one of his first credited films.
Yeah.
Short films. I mean, you know what I mean.
Right.
All right, that's a stick of celery. Celery is a lot easier to chop up than when it comes to sinuses and tears and stuff. So that's good. That stuff's going away. So also on the fourth, I watched Home Alone.
Nice.
Which, that's not always a tradition, but I had to clear my head of that terrible Home Alone for the Holidays that I watched earlier in the month, which we talked about in our last discussion. Those who are wanting to keep score. we did talk about that then. This one is pretty straightforward if you haven't heard about Home Alone. Macaulay Culkin is this kid who was left home alone. When his parents went off to France, and then has to defend his house against 2 burglars.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. And surprisingly, most of the film is not what you would expect it if you're just looking at the advertising, because you're expecting like most of it being the traps and stuff, but that's only like the last part of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. I really enjoy it. I mean, it's kind of cool. I don't mind watching them every year. I don't mind any of them. I like most of the Home Alones. Even the bad ones are at least an enjoyable watch.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Did you watch Home Alone this year?
I did, but it's much further down on my list, so I hadn't gotten to it yet.
I figure that's one that we both watched. And
yeah. Well, I guess if you want, I can go ahead and mention that. That was, I watched much
one
closer.
I've seen. I'll let you know as well.
That was one I saw much closer to Christmas. I think all of us kind of were like, why don't we do Home Alone? And it's a fun one. Like you said, not an every year tradition, but it's a semi-tradition. It's a fun one.
And some of it's Galore as well, but
we did that last year, I believe.
So,
so it's good to revisit. What's that?
Watched it for 2 years in a row.
Indeed, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, next up, I'm guessing you probably did see this. I'm going to do 2 together. I had a 10-film short film collection that I really wanted to get through this year. And of course, I only got through 4 films. So it's like, I don't know. Am I going to wait till next Christmas to watch the rest? Or am I going to try and watch some in July? The Christmas in July thing. I don't know. But of course, this one starts off with the best and then goes downhill from there. The first one on there is Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the old classic TV special, which was narrated by Boris Karloff and gave us that thoroughly classic Thurl Ravenscroft, "You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch." It's just a wonderful piece of the holidays. It is one I try to hit yearly if I can. And the fact that it's only like 20-odd minutes long. And it's a near perfect adaptation of the book. I finally read the book 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, the movie pretty much is the book with a couple action scenes, and that's it.
I read that as a kid.
Huh? See, I did. I read a lot of Dr. Seuss, but I don't think I ever read that book for some reason. But anyway, it's good times. So, and then the follow-up to that, and then if you've had either of these, you can chime in. The follow-up to that was the first of probably 9, well, probably 7 or 8 out of the 10 that I had never seen before. I don't even think I ever heard of this before. It's an old Rankin Bass one called The Leprechaun's Christmas Gold, which is about a young dude who gets washed up on an island off of Ireland that happens to be inhabited by leprechauns and also happens to be inhabited by a banshee who's trying to steal their gold. Because nothing says Christmas to most Americans more than a banshee stealing the leprechaun's gold. But I watched it, and it was pretty good. I think there's a song on there. I think it's Christmas in Killarney, I think was the name of it, that I think I actually have heard a few times before. It has a little bit of that Rankin Bass creepiness to it. Parts of it are pretty friggin' creepy. But otherwise, it was fun. Mostly forgettable. I'm surprised I remember that much, but yeah.
I've never actually seen that one. I mean, I've seen Grinch, obviously, but
obviously,
this year I don't watch it every year. But I think I watched it last year because last year I paired it with the Jim Carrey one and the one with God, what's his name? You know, the dude from Benedict Cumberbatch. Yep, that dude.
The Penguins guy.
Yep. So I'll go ahead and cover a couple.
You probably will.
Fifth, I went ahead and finally saw Deadly Games, which kind of goes well with Home Alone. It's a French film, and I saw this, and oh my gosh, this was like the cover drew me in when Vinegar Syndrome was releasing it. I had to get it. And so I got it in 2020. And again, the box came after the holidays. So I didn't have time to watch it. But that was okay because I watched it this year. I, in vain, sought to try and have it covered on Inside Movies Galore. But
there's always next year.
Supporting it, we didn't. So it's about this kid who's living in a mansion with his grandfather, and he's kind of pretty much allowed to go wild in this mansion. He's got tunnels and all that stuff, and he's got a kind of military focus, and he is his grandfather mostly looks after him. His grandfather's kind of a little bit senile and got a lot of issues himself, diabetic and all that stuff. So his mother goes out to a Christmas party, and this one creepy ass dude gets a job as a Santa Claus, and he's going around hurting people or being basically he's just being creepy and nasty. So he goes and he finds this kid's house and contacts the kid online, and early online for the 80s, and decides he's going to come to this kid's house, at which point it's a very Home Alone-esque, except imagine a much more dangerous villain than Marv and Harry, and much less comical, more intense. And it is very cool. I love the imagery. I want to see it again. I'm definitely going to watch it next year. It was fun. But the next day on the, or not the next day, a couple days later, on the 8th, I went ahead and I watched again the Matrosia Christmas special, which I didn't realize they still sell those DVDs, which is, I guess, okay. Very low budget, but, some of them were entertaining, and I didn't mind watching it. It just kind of was fun to watch again. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily, especially to you, Jacob. I wouldn't recommend that. I mean, it was all right. I mean, I think there was one where you had a possessed eggnog. It got people to drink it until they died. You got like one that's about this creepy doll that supposedly they did a movie for called Sweet Tooth, and who kills people, and about Sweet Tooth wanting to have Christmas with his family of other creepy dolls. And that was kind of interesting. And you had this whole weird like congressional race between Arnold and Kevin Costner that they were doing. So, I mean, there were some fun things throughout it. Yeah, it's not that gross, but you might find it entertaining as a one-watch, but I don't think you'd care much for it.
No, obviously, this isn't the actual Arnold and Kevin Costner, right?
I know. And, well, I'll let you do the main cover for Gremlins. That's my next one up, and it'll be around that time period. And I'm going back to chopping. But
sounds like a plan.
I enjoy Gremlins enough, and though it's not a Christmas tradition for me, but I'll let Jacob cover most of it.
Well, there's not a whole heck of a lot for me to add other than, once again, this was one we covered for Inside Movies Galore. We had a pretty lively discussion for it. A lot of folks were into it, and some people consider it very much a classic. I am not really one of those folks. But I still enjoy it enough, and I appreciated it. And we had, like I said, good watch with it. But watch the discussion and get a lot more insight from both of us, plus the other members of the crew.
I don't think Kim was in with us for that one, was she?
I feel like she might have chimed in a bit.
But she didn't like Gremlins, so she always found that one too creepy, which is odd considering this is a person based on Hellraiser. But
indeed,
well, what can I say? I'll do one more and then I'll let you take a couple.
Okay.
We finished the Great British Baking Show season 11, so I guess that wasn't Christmassy, but it was fun.
They didn't have Christmas themed dishes?
No, because they do have a few. They have like a great holiday baking show, which we did a couple of those as well, which were very fun. They bring back some of the old contestants to do holiday baking themes, which are pretty cool. I really love the show. It's wholesome, it's entertaining, and it's just good viewing regardless of the time of year. And we finished that season, which is I think the latest season. I think that's one they filmed in 2021. So yeah.
All right. So the next one I'm going to talk about actually is a show. I actually have 2 series that I'm going to mention for the month of December. They were both relatively short, and one of them I watched over the course of about a week and a half on Netflix, and the other one we as a group watched, my family watched over about a 2-week period, I think. We ended up watching most of the episodes and then had to wait several days for the final episode. But the first one is pretty definitely one of the most controversial programs of 2021. And a lot of the controversy was due to some stupid-ass bullshit. And that was the live-action, Netflix-produced live-action remake of the classic Shinichiro Watanabe anime, Cowboy Bebop. So I watched the live-action version, which featured John Cho in the lead role of Spike Spiegel, the Daniela Pineda as Faye Valentine, Alex Hassel as Vince as the Vicious, Elena Satine as Julia, and Shakir. Why am I drawing a blank on it? Mustafa Shakir as Jet Black. And Radical Edward is not there until the final 2 minutes of the final episode of what was supposed to be season 1 and ended up being the final episode because bullshit. So, I have sounded off a little bit about this. There is a lot on the interwebs about this particular program. Suffice it to say, I look at it as an alternate take on the characters and story, such as one might find in an alternate dimension, parallel dimension to the original Cowboy Bebop universe. And if you look at it that way, it works. It's a perfectly decent space opera action show. pre-jamming music, Yoko Kanno came back to do the soundtrack again. Although I do agree with people who said that the original production crew had a much, much, much better idea of how to use that music. I do agree with that. This is a poster child for use of music in film being an actual legit thing that should be honored, because having great music and using it greatly are two different things. But that being said, this series still had some pretty badass music. They did bring back the Real Folk Blues for a couple of the enders. They did bring back Tank for all the openers. A lot of people were put off by the hybrid animated live-action version of Tank's opener. I found it weirdly intriguing. In the end, the biggest thing that sucked about the series was that Vicious is a whiny brat who's unlikable, absolutely deserves everything coming to him, and is just a waste of space, and Alex Hassell does not play him very well, and every time he's on screen, it sucks all the life out of the show. But since I never cared about Vicious anyway, that didn't bother me as much as it did the people who thought he was the greatest villain ever. All that being said, my defense of the show has more to do with the fact that haters and the stupid-ass people who run the corporate end at Netflix killed the show, because the haters were just being haters. They were just being stupid. And the people who were running the corporate end at Netflix didn't know what they were dealing with. And 3 weeks is way too friggin' fast to give a show the axe. I don't care what justification is, unless it's an unmitigated, steaming pile of crap.
They should have at least given it.
They should have given it a couple months.
Because once
3 weeks.
Because people would have checked it out just because of the hate.
If only because of the controversy.
I know one of the things that you say is there's like those of us who weren't interested not watching it because we weren't interested was one of the major problems. I still feel like I shouldn't be forced to watch something I don't have a lot of interest in just to keep it people who do.
That's one of the reasons why I say the 3 week thing was bull crap. Netflix, when you dump an entire series at once, and you do that like 3 shows a month or something like that, not to mention how many movies?
Yeah.
Can you really expect everyone to be up on everything on their playlist? I have 5 dozen. I'm pulling a number out of the air, but I think it's safe to say I've got 5 dozen Netflix productions I want to see, and I don't have time to do that. I make time as I find it. And so it's like, I like the idea of something floating around for a little while until it finds a home. You know, you don't cut it loose right after you drop it. That's just, so that was my biggest beef with the whole thing. Even though I had some serious issues with how they did it, I was intrigued to see where season 2 was going. They could have course corrected and turned season 2 into the best thing ever. You never know.
They could have.
But that's the problem with trying to adapt a sacred cow.
I mean, to me, it's not much different than when they were doing a live action Death Note. They've done some live action anime.
That one, from what I understand, though, Death Note, they were trying too hard to Americanize it.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the feel from it that the people involved really, truly got what they were doing.
Well, I really haven't watched that one yet either, so I can't really tell you.
Yeah, I haven't honestly watched that. I need to, but, you know.
To me, it's like making... it's like Disney making live action versions of their film. It has an audience. They are relatively different, depending on the title. Some of them are shot for shot, but but a lot of them do have a lot of difference. But again, it's not. I don't think I've seen but a handful of their live action redos. Now that's actually one of the cases where I have but it's all about an audience.
But that's a good example of, and we talked about the Grinch just a few minutes ago. That was one that had radically different receptions to the different versions that have come out. I think a good story can be told several times, and you can do it in different ways. And it shouldn't hit all the same beats every time, because then it's like, why the hell did you do it again? You know? So the question is, did you deviate enough to make it worth our trip down the new version? And the answer for the live action Lion King was no, they did not.
Well, it's sad that the ones I've seen, for the most part, I mean, I don't count the ones that are drastically different, like Cruella or the one with Angelina Jolie. I don't count those as even. Maleficent. Those aren't remakes. Those are different films within the same. No,
it's a different spin on the character. Yeah.
So, but I mean, if you look at it, I think that Cowboy Bebop could have done fine if you were taking the same characters and throwing them as in, because Cowboy Bebop works as an episodic series, and you could have it take place within the framework of the series. Like the movie. The movie wasn't a retelling of the entire series. It was an episode. You could have done it that way. Again, I'm not sure I would run in to see it, but it's there. I mean, I sure as heck am not going to be running to see the One Piece adaptation.
Yes, Netflix is doing One Piece, so that's...
Not sure. I
don't even know.
They put too much effort and had so much expectation that it was going to blow the roof off day one. And that's
One Piece. Okay, that's a good example. One Piece is a behemoth.
Yeah.
That is a massive, massive thing. And if anyone was seriously saying we were going to adapt the whole thing as is, I don't think anyone would seriously be on board for that. On the other hand, as we know from our gaming, it makes a wonderful world in which to set a story.
I think they could do it. They didn't have to use the same characters. Now, I do think that I disagree with the mortality rate in the world of the game.
Yes. I think they could definitely take the same basic premise, probably the same basic crew, just front load Frankie and Brooke a little bit so that we don't have to go so far into the series, and just get, maybe skip some of the intro stuff or focus entirely on the intros. I don't know. Maybe do a couple of seasons and just tell an alternate story. I mean, if you're trying to tell the exact same story, it won't be worth the time doing it,
I mean, the other thing is the expense.
Yes, the expense.
Have some of the epic battles that you have in things like One Piece. Shoot, even some of the battles from freaking Cowboy Bebop.
They complained about the budget for Bebop. I can't imagine what the budget for One Piece is going to be.
And that's the thing is, I think you would have to really. I still feel like to do Bebop correctly live action, you'd have to shift the focus. Just like with one, so you can cut down on the costs. And One Piece, same thing. You could do One Piece easily as a comedy where they're just traveling and between place to place. You could do it during the downtimes and have very low combat. It'd piss off the people who love One Piece, but they don't want a live action adaptation anyway. And that's the thing. The other thing is, like, the real diehard fans don't want a live action adaptation. People who are more open to it are like, yeah, sure, I'll watch another version of it. And but I don't know. Like I say, I'm not the audience for these live action adaptations. I was fine with Cowboy Bebop. What it is, it's a good story. It's a good story that doesn't really need any more episodes. And we're at a time where everything needs to have a renewal, that every series needs to have another 100 to 200 episodes added on, even if it's in the 1980s, because we're playing off of nostalgia. We're playing off of your old, we're preying off of this stuff. Instead of coming up with something new and creative, we're just, let's readapt something old that we know was a hit and open up the ball again. I don't know. I mean, I could see One Piece finishing down the road, and some author like 10 years later going, you know what? Let's make a new One Piece series. Like, no, let's not.
Now, I've probably told you this, but as far as anime goes, one I really do want to see a live-action American version. But I could see it being something where you literally would take the world, the characters, a few of the stories, and riff on it rather than trying to adapt it perfectly. And that would be Kino's Journey. I think that one could work beautifully for that. But it would, a lot of them would just be difficult.
I think a series that they could actually do a United States adaptation with, where they do an Americanization of something like Zetsubo Sensei. You could do that live. You could do that live action, and you could adapt it. Matter of fact, it would probably work better with American audiences because you're adapting themes. Because a lot of the stuff in Zetsubo Sensei, it's a great series, but you have to know a lot of the stuff that they're referencing. And even I can't get all of what's referenced. You might get all of it, but I don't get all of it. They do explain a lot of it, which is good.
They do.
It's, there's no explanation needed. You do it here, you could definitely do a tongue-in-cheek commentary on society. I mean, look at Don't Look Up. That's a good example.
Yeah. Oh, that's a brilliant example.
Commentary on society. And you could do that with Zetsubo Sensei every episode with an American version of that.
But it would have to be heavily Americanized. It would have to be thoroughly localized. And
what's the other series you were talking about?
Which one?
You said you saw 2 series, and you were trying to do that.
Oh, well, I haven't gotten to that one yet. I'm not trying to do them all at once. Like I say, you probably have 5 times the thing on your list that I do.
Let's see. What do I have left? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And
okay. Then twice.
17, I'm just doing I'm going to do as one. And some of that's counting Inside Movies Galore stuff.
Okay.
So if you didn't write those things down, keep that in mind that 3 of them I think are covered. So I watched A Christmas Horror Story on the 14th. I love that one. We watched that for Inside Movies Galore. Did you do that with us?
No.
Great one. William Shatner was a great narrator for it. He plays a radio DJ, and it's an anthology. It's a connected anthology. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
Right, like Trick or Treat?
Yeah, it's pretty strongly connecting the tale. And you have several of them. You've got one where you've got Santa and his elves have contracted some sort of zombie virus, and it ends in an epic fight between him and Krampus. You've got one where you've got a changeling that takes the place of this family's child. You've got another where this family is going in and they basically offend Krampus. And I feel like there was another one. Oh, gosh. My head is killing. I'm trying to think. I can't think of it, but there's another one in there too. There's a couple of twists at the end, which I'm not going to spoil because you should see it. It's not super bloody or gory. The zombie elf thing is probably the most, and a lot of it's more clean violence, like he chops the head off or something like that. I think the worst scene is like one of the elves like tries to hack his own hand off with a hatchet, which but otherwise I think you'd be okay with it. It's a really good one. I was really impressed with it, and it kind of hits a little bit of each story as you go through. So it's little pieces of each story, and they each develop as the movie goes on. And it's very fun. If you haven't checked out the Inside Movies Galore discussion, you should. It was a great one, and still one of my favorites. I enjoy watching it every year. My wife was up for a lot of Christmas horror viewing, so we got a lot of Christmas horror viewing in. Cool. So I'll go ahead and I'll move with two others. One called American Santa, which I've talked about before. It's a short, and it's about basically Santa ended up deceiving this group of elves and utilized their marketing power to create a multi-million-dollar conglomerate, multi-billion-dollar conglomerate similar to Jeff Bezos, and but he's cursed so that he has to retire after like 200 years or so, and then a Santa battle royale has to happen to see who takes the place of Santa after that. That's the setup, and most of the short is just the battle royale between the Santas, and it's entertaining enough. It's a cute little short, worth checking out. It's only like 8 minutes long.
Sounds cute.
And then there is Dismembering Christmas, which it took me a minute to remember it. I thought it was a fairly decent Christmas horror story. I had mixed it up with Christmas Cruelty, which is a terrible, terrible movie. I'll have to watch it again just to make sure I'm right remembering it. It really is Christmas Cruelty. Dismembering Christmas, again, you have another killer Santa Claus, essentially. You got some person who's mentally ill, and they end up chopping up bodies and wrapping up the parts as presents under the tree. It's
as you do.
Like I say, it's not a bad film. I enjoyed it overall. It's worth checking out if you like a good Christmas slasher-thon. It's not so bad.
Good times. Now, speaking of Christmas horror movies, next one I watched was another one of those Rankin Bass creepy puppet movies, which was Pinocchio's Christmas, which I do find it kind of interesting. I would have thought Walt Disney would have sewn up the rights to Pinocchio a little better than that, but apparently this is one of, when you think about it, there have been several recent-ish Pinocchio adaptations, so makes sense, I guess, that some of them slipped through the cracks over the years. But this one, again, is a Rankin Bass film about Pinocchio and Geppetto, and takes place primarily at and around Christmas. If you've seen Pinocchio, you pretty much know the gist of the plot. He has trouble with common sense. He has trouble with following directions. He's easily misled. He, of course, has a nose that grows when he lies, and he has a tendency to fib from now and then. And Geppetto is a very, very kindly, caring old man who has a very strong attachment to his puppet. That's really all I have to say on that. It's, Pinocchio, but at Christmas and with puppets instead of animation. But anyway, and since Brandon's still gone, I'll go ahead and introduce a movie that we watched together, actually. I was over there one evening. I think it was two of us and Kim basically ended up watching another Robert Zemeckis film, the Polar Express. Good, solid film. Tom Hanks in multiple roles. Michael Jeter in a couple of his last roles very shortly before he passed, based on the book by Chris Van Allsburg. Has taken some flack over the years for being a tad creepy in some of its visuals, but it is one of the earlier primarily motion capture films. And as we've said before, Zemeckis likes to be on the vanguard of technology. He likes to be on the forefront. He likes to play with toys no one else has played with. And he definitely did that with Polar Express. And another one where I've recently read the book, and they definitely added a lot to make the film, but it's still a remarkably good adaptation despite all that was added. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Did we discuss that one on Inside Movies, Galore? Was that one of our...
No, that was just one you and Kim wanted to put it on, and I ended up watching it with y'all.
Well, yeah, Kim is insistent on watching it every year, which, is good enough. It's a good film. We like to watch it and have hot chocolate, and that's our...
Good deal.
That's been pretty much since we've been together.
And hot chocolate is always fun.
So, I watched a Polonia Brothers film called Hell on the Shelf, and it shows like the elf on the shelf attacking somebody with a sharpened candy cane on the cover, which that got me interested. And it was kind of boring, which is sad. It was very slow moving. It's about this group of paranormal investigators who go to this house that's supposedly haunted and has a cursed doll that if you touch it, you're doomed to kill off all of your family or something. And it was all right. It was enjoyable enough, but it was very slow at times. It's one I need to give more of my attention to. Not the best of best. But also that day, which was the 17th, I watched the Munsters Christmas special, which was they put in a new cast and decided to do a Christmas special with the whole Munsters family. And it was fun enough. I mean, essentially, Grandpa ends up... Munsters, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is this group of... monsters who are living like regular people, essentially. They don't see themselves as a different family. It's kind of like a lot like the Addams Family, where I think the Addams Family knows more that they're a sinister group than the Munsters do. The Munsters
wouldn't call themselves sinister. They just they see everyone else as bland and uninteresting.
So, the Munsters really kind of feel like they're just a normal family on the street, but they're not. And essentially, you got to deal with that, and of course, the kid having to deal with trying to deal with the whole Santa thing, and he's kind of having his own Christmas blues. So Santa tries to help with that, while at the same time, Grandpa and the rest try and get Santa on track to deliver Christmas gifts to all the boys and girls. But two elves decide they want to sabotage Christmas because they want more time to drink and party. It's entertaining enough. It's cute. It's done right in the style, and the people who do the parts aren't too bad at it. I will be back.
All right. Hey, you talking about Elf on the Shelf? I don't know. I can't remember. I want to say it was Jimmy Kimmel. Someone recently put up an idea that I've got stuck in my head now. There was the Facebook version, which is called Zuck in a Truck. I found that kind of amusing. It sticks in my brain for some reason. Creepy, though. So, one thing that the fourth and unfortunately final film thus far that I have from that collection that I watched is a film called The Stingiest Man in Town, which I probably could have guessed from the title, but I definitely picked up very quickly from the actual show. It's an animated musical. Well, wouldn't have gotten all this from the title, but it's an animated musical rendition by Rankin and Bass of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And it's pretty good if I remember correct. If I'm remembering correctly, my memory's a little hazy. I want to say it's Walter Matthau who actually voices Scrooge in this version, if I'm remembering correctly. The animation is charitably weak, and the music could have been better. But the idea of doing Christmas Carol as a animated musical is like, well, I'm not surprised that there was one. I kind of wish it was stronger.
Multiple ones.
Yeah, I'm sure there's been a couple. But this one was interesting. Like I said, it could have been stronger, but, it was worth a look.
Well, let's see here. One that was fun. I got to watch my Vinegar Syndrome copy of Jack Frost.
Nice.
Which is about this guy who is about sent to death because he was a serial killer. Mm-hmm. He gets hit with this chemical, and it breaks him down into the snow. So he ends up becoming a killer snowman. Mm-hmm. It's very silly, very stupid, but also a lot of fun.
All right.
Those who kind of like those silly, kind of stupidish horror films, I think that would be a good one to go.
Yeah, that was good times.
With Jacob was not Black Christmas, Bad Ben Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Where we're back to the Bad Ben house, and the guy staying there is haunted again by this evil queen elf and her two elf flunkies, and Tom Riley is called back in as a paranormal investigator in order to exorcise the spirits from the house to save Christmas.
Okay.
And it also canonizes Santa into the Bad Ben universe.
Good times. All right. Now, he almost introduced my next one by mistake. I did watch Black Christmas, the old 1974 version. I watched my Shout Factory version, and I am actually very upset right now with Shout Factory because I thought I was getting a really cool, nice collector's edition, and it does have a lot of bonus features and whatever. But as I was watching it, the tracking went out of sync at one point. Now, that's one thing if you're recording something or streaming something or whatever, but if you have purchased a DVD or Blu-ray, you expect the tracking to work and not be messed up. So, I don't know. Maybe if anyone out there has watched this Shout Factory Black Christmas, let me know if you've had any problems with the tracking. I'm curious, but I don't know if it's worth trying to get a replacement or not, but at the very least, I do have it. It is in the collection, and I did get to watch it again. I showed it to my brother for a little bit of film history.
Just take the little dial and you turn it.
Oh yeah, that little dial that is long gone. Yes.
For people who might be remembering things back in the day.
Yes. Back in the day, back when Black Christmas came out originally, I think. and up until, at least until Bob Clark's next Christmas film, actually, Christmas Story. That is definitely from that era. But it was good to revisit the film. Another one we did cover on Movies Galore, 2 years ago?
It's been a while, but it was a good one to cover.
Yeah.
And who knows? It might be one that people want to re-talk about when we vote on that for August.
Indeed.
But yeah, Black Christmas I also watched at the same time around,
Okay.
and I had the DVD copy, and I did not have any tracking issues with mine.
Okay.
So,
Hmm.
if you want to, but yeah, Kim wanted to watch it, and I thought, that's kind of there. We were originally going to do a Black Christmas marathon, Christmas, then Black Xmas, then
That might be kind of fun to do, actually.
then Woke Christmas, and there. I mean, I give it flack, but it's not that bad a film. It's actually pretty good. To me, if Ghostbusters 2016 hit things like that, I would have taken 2016 Ghostbusters much more seriously. I mean, if they had actually been sitting there and they were fighting the ghost of toxic masculinity, and they were constantly fighting the glass ceiling the whole time, that would have been, I think, a better film than what we got. As far as a film that truly is a true, like, what do they call it, piece that where they can be like empowerment to women film.
Oh, okay. So, like, maybe an example, maybe if they were to try it again in 10 years, 15 years, be like, instead of Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, they're fighting like the ghost of Harvey Weinstein or something like
Yeah,
that.
there you go. Yeah, that would be a idea there. But yeah, that's to me, I think that might have been a better route. I think. I mean, literally, the villain in Black Christmas is the ghost of toxic masculinity. They literally fight that, and it's unapologetically what it is, and I got to give it props for that. So but I didn't watch either of those this time around because we didn't get the time. So, one of them for Inside Movies Galore was It's a Wonderful Life, which is not an annual tradition for me, but it is for many. And it's fun watching it again. I watched the colorized version because why not? And they did a great job colorizing that bad boy. It looked.
Oh, some people in our group had reasons why not.
I mean, it was totally realistic, and it was very cool. I enjoy it okay, but it's not my favorite film. I was routinely ribbed as being the hater of it. I don't hate it, but
we had 3 people in the group who'd never watched it all the way through.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Mo's got on one of Mo's favorites lists.
Yeah.
Very well, very good reception on it. Shoot, Dustin. As a matter of fact, Dustin surprised me with both of our last selections. I thought he'd hate both, and I was wrong.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
That's one way. I hope he's a regular contributor on both of our months because he'll probably find some new stuff.
So, actually, recently I got all 3 of these, but Robin Williams had 3 movies come out the year he died, and those were his swan song films. The Last of the Night of Museum movies. There's one where he did the voice of a dog, and I can't remember it, but I do have it now. And A Merry Friggin' Christmas, which I watched. That's one I'm not sure I will watch every year, but it's one I don't mind keeping in because I like the idea of having those 3 films. I mean, Robin Williams is this older man who is estranged from his son, but because some tragedy happened, well, not really tragedy, is the other main character's brother is adopting a child, and they're having the baptism on Christmas Eve, so it requires him to actually stay with the family. They're forced to kind of reconcile, and Ron Williams, you can tell, like, maybe some of that stuff that he was feeling came through with the character, because you could tell, like, the misery the character was feeling. he was very much missed
Mm-hmm.
when it came to that. You had something to say on the subject?
Oh, well, I just wanted to look it up because I definitely remembered things differently from how you did, and I see why looking at it, because according to IMDb, Dennis the dog actually, or sorry, that was his role. Absolutely Anything
Yeah.
came out the following year,
Yeah.
but there were 3 that came out after his death. He had 2 movies and a TV series in the year of 2014 before he died. And then he had 2 movies after, and then the one the year after. So he had a busy slate going on at the time.
On IMDb.
Yeah.
2015. What was the other one that they don't list on IMDb?
Oh, no, they're listed. What I'm saying is like that
Night of the Museum is listed as 2014, and A Merry Christmas is 2014.
Yes, but also
2015 is Absolutely Anything.
right. But Boulevard and The Angriest Man in Brooklyn and a TV series that he was in were all listed as 2014 as well. They were before his death.
But they're not
so
the year after. The year after would be 2015.
Right. So anyway, now that we got that straight, so I guess it's my turn, huh?
Yeah.
All right, and it is time for the other promised series. I so far have been lackluster in my attempts to stay fully up on the TV component of the MCU. Partly it's because I refuse to get Disney Plus. And Disney has shown no interest in distributing any of them other than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on physical media, and even that got a limited release, if I remember correctly. I did watch several episodes of Loki, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
But in December, we as a family did sit down and watch the newest offering, which fittingly is a Christmas series, which is the show Hawkeye. A very nice short series featuring Jeremy Renner's Clint Barton, a.k.a. Hawkeye. Also featuring Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, who, as we know, will become Hawkeye. It also features Vera Farmiga as her mother. It features Linda Cardellini as Hawkeye's aim true love and wife, who we come to find out in the series was in fact a former agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And you got a few other folks in there as well. Fafi plays a guy named Kazi. You've also got Alakwa Cox, a actual deaf actress who plays a deaf character, Maya, who will become known as Echo, and this set up her own solo series, which is coming somewhere down the road. You've got the so-called tracksuit mafia, this group of Russians who all call each other bro, and they have this Trust a Bro moving company that's their front. That I just found that kind of hilarious. And I'm going to spoil y'all's fun. I had some fun, but I'm going to spoil y'all's fun if it's not already spoiled. I did not realize Florence Pugh's Elena Belova was coming back. She was introduced in Black Widow and was the best thing in Black Widow, bar none. And the internet fell immediately in love with her and Kate Bishop as best friends for life. And the scenes together are classic. The series also canonizes, along with Spider-Man Far From Home, canonizes Netflix's Daredevil as being part of the MCU. That's all I'm going to say on that. Basically, if you have not seen Hawkeye, I would recommend probably watching at least the Hawkeye movies and Black Widow. So the Avengers movies and Black Widow. I would probably watch those before launching into it. But it's a pretty darn good series. It's a lot of fun. I don't feel like I missed too much, having missed out on some of the pieces beforehand. I haven't seen Daredevil. I really need to go back and see that.
I need to watch Daredevil, the Punisher, John Cage, and the Defenders.
And Jessica Jones. And, of course, now that they're all canon, they may try to retcon Iron Fist because no one liked that one. But all the others, they're going to try to, It's... what?
I need to watch second season of Agent Carter. I watched the first season.
Yeah, the first season was excellent, but I never did see the second season of that. Yeah. But, and also they introduced a guy, Jack Duquesne, who apparently is a minor superhero called the Swordsman. And he's played by Tony Dalton, and he was kind of fun, too. So, it's good times. It's worth a look. And, definitely, it is kind of cool that they did an actual Christmas series, a little holiday series. But, yeah.
It's on my list. I'm trying to get through all of them, except for maybe I might watch Black Widow, since it sounds like that's a good setup movie. But I'm planning on trying to watch all the basic Marvel series.
Right.
Get into Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spider-Man Far From Home. And
I know I definitely need to watch WandaVision and Loki before the new Doctor Strange movie comes out.
So I've got a lot ahead of me to hit. I'm probably going to be spending as much on Marvel and ignoring things like I had for Have Gun Will Travel, especially if I decide to watch Netflix films. But then, of course, you've also got a bunch of other stuff, too, because you got Cloak and Dagger and... what was the other one on Hulu?
Well, so far, Cloak and Dagger and Runaways have not been canonized into the series that I know of, so you're probably good on those.
But, it's just taking time to watch all that stuff. I swear there's an assumption that I have, like, an infinite amount of viewing time.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I can throw behind all this stuff and then watch other things. Because Dave was talking about, hey, you can finish Red Dwarf. Like, no, I'm going to be watching Marvel 24/7.
Yeah.
For all my free time. And that'll dig into my 2021 films, too, because instead of watching 21 releases, I'll be watching Marvel series.
Well, in fairness, there were 4 Marvel theatrical features in 2021, so that's a big chunk.
I'll eventually get there. Before the Versus Awards, anyway. So Christmas Eve was a big day for me. Viewing it, I got 3 things knocked out. 2 of which, I know at least one of which you've seen, and I'm willing to bet you probably saw the other one as well. But the one you probably didn't watch this year is the Will Vinton Claymation Christmas, which I try to watch that every year.
No, I didn't get to that. No.
I got to catch this. It's at the tail end. Let's get this. I love it. It's a fun little thing where you do have the Will Vinton claymation utilized on some variations of Christmas carols. It's a fun little TV special. Mm-hmm. I've got the one that has 3 of them on it. It's got the Christmas one, the Easter one, and the Halloween one. And they're all fun specials, but the Christmas one is my favorite all the way through. You have to kind of be there for the Will Vinton experience to truly enjoy it. But as a child of the 80s, I was right dab in the middle of the act.
Oh, yeah. As a child of the 80s, I was really happy when they had the California Raisins doing that number.
Yes. So another one that I don't know, you probably have watched this, which is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Did you watch that?
Not this year.
Wow, surprising.
Not this year.
But
I didn't have time.
I watch it every year on Christmas Eve. That coupled with another one that I know you watch. But I always watch the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation every Christmas Eve. That's just a Christmas tradition that I started with my father. which it's sad. This is probably the first time that we kind of watched it remotely. Last year, he bugged my mother to death to make sure that he watched it. So this is kind of that was 2020 was the last year that I got to watch it and talk to him about it. So that's a sad thing, bittersweet, I guess you could say, but still enjoyable enough. It's if you don't know about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, I'm sorry.
We can help you. We also have a Movies Galore discussion on that.
Yeah. And you get to actually hear somebody's who sets the case against it being a good movie.
Right.
But one that was surprising, and this one is one that both of us have watched, was White Christmas. Now that has been a tradition in the family since my great grandmother, who started it with my grandmother, which then took it down to my mother, and now I'm doing it.
Good deal.
Every Christmas Eve. And of course, we watched it in the original black and white. Yes, it was originally colorized in the theaters, but the original way to see it was in black and white because that's all I had. Yes, they had color TVs when I was young, but we didn't have the money to afford one at the time. So I originally watched that, and then off of a ratty VHS tape, then off of a official ratty VHS tape, and then DVD, and this year Blu-ray, which is kind of cool. Did you have anything on White Christmas? We did cover it. Frontside Movies Galore, by the way.
Yep. And we not only had a couple newbies on that discussion. We had one person who claimed that he'd never heard of the movie.
Or ever saw Bing Crosby.
Yeah, that was an interesting discussion, but we had fun with it. I think we all enjoyed the movie to a degree, and yeah.
It's surprising how many people talked about how positive the experience was. Even the newbies were like, "No, I like this film."
Yeah, very cool.
And that's a musical with Irving Berlin and gosh, who is the director?
Michael Cukor, I believe. Was it? No, was that him? I feel horrible for second guessing.
I mean, it stars Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, and it's just it's about this
Michael Curtiz. I'm sorry,
Michael Curtiz. Yeah, and
I was thinking George Cukor, and yeah,
they ended up bringing a show together to save a dying hotel. So, a fun one to watch every year. I enjoy watching it.
Indeed.
Now I only have 2 entries left. How many do you have left?
Well, you ran a little far ahead of me there. I have a few left, so I'll go ahead and do 2 because actually these do work to do together. Right. One being that we watched, I think this might have been our Christmas Eve. Actually, we'll do. This may have been the run up to Christmas Eve. I can't remember. I guess we'll go ahead and do the one at least, which is Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. You know, we mentioned Home Alone. We actually followed it up here the next night with the sequel, which, as we discussed on Movies Galore last year, is essentially the first film but better. Basically, they just remade the film in New York, and a certain orange cameo aside, it was worth watching if only to see absolute definitive physical proof that Tim Curry is the live action Grinch. But it's a good time. It's a good time, a fun film. And I guess you said you only have 2 left?
Yep, 2 entries left.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and do the other 2 we did. I think we actually did these probably on Christmas night, maybe, if I remember correctly. And one of those was, I think, the one we also did last year for Movies Galore, the last 2 years. I think it was last year, which was Ernest Saves Christmas. Holiday classic there. Again, you can refer our discussion for more info, but it is a classic film. Ernest P. Worrell is a good-hearted fella without a lot of brains, but he is remarkably good at bluffing people and disguise for some reason. And the whole scene with the snake farmer was just classic. But, it is one of the greats. And then just before bed, I happened to find something on my phone. I watch a lot of videos on my phone. And they happened to put up a special I hadn't watched yet. So right before bed, I just took 25 minutes and watched a Garfield Christmas special, old-timey classic, some great songs, Lorenzo music.
Is that the one where he visits John's family in the country?
Yeah. Okay.
It's been so long.
Oh, no, it's one I see every couple of years. It's good times. All right.
Yeah, I mean, Ernest Saves Christmas is one of those that I really like. I don't get to it every year, but I do enjoy it when I do. It's sort of like Home Alone, too. I don't get to it every year. I do enjoy it when I do.
Right.
And yeah, I think that Jim Varney really tried to make a name for himself as a character actor from day one. I mean, shoot, Dr. Otto and the Gloom Beam right there. That was, I think, the first Ernest film. And, well, not really, because Ernest is just a form that he takes in one of those, but the first appearance. And that one's a character acting piece for him. And Jim Varney is an excellent character actor.
Good deal.
Or ones. Yep. Rest in peace.
Thoroughly underrated. Yeah.
So, Christmas, I only watched one film, and that was Scrooged. Bill Murray film. I was gifted the Blu-ray for Christmas.
Cool.
And I really enjoy watching it. I didn't think it was cleaned up all that great, but I was willing to take it in and get my copy upgraded. And it was fun. I mean, it's just a fun general take on the Scrooge tale, kind of modernized. I guess they call it 80s modernized. I mean, the fact that calling the 80s modernized would be like calling the 50s modernized back in the 80s when it was done, or 90s really. So that's sad that it's actually, it's 40. It's in that 40-year range back now.
Not quite, but close.
Oh, 80 is 40 years back.
Well, yeah, but it was the end of the 80s, but still.
But still.
Yeah.
But but still 30 some years back from the 80s, 87 to 650. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it would be basically, if we were to look back now to the 80s, late 80s, we'd be talking about the late 50s from the 80s.
Right.
So, but still, it's an 80s take on, late 80s take on. And it's a fun take. I mean, it's not one I watch every year, but it's one I enjoy. I love that little thing like Psycho Steve, Santa's workshop. And only Lee Majors can stop them.
Right.
I really wanted to see if reindeer died.
Another one we covered on Movies Galore 3 years ago?
Yes. One that had the same argument. I think we covered that one in National Lampoons the same year. And it was that same argument between Dustin and Dane about, like, this is a classic, man. It's like, nah, it's only good if you enjoyed it from the past.
I think you might be right on that, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be an interesting discussion. Matter of fact, it's kind of good whenever you have, like, opposing viewpoints like that.
Right, and definitely is, yeah. All right, so are we doing our last ones kind of one at a time?
Yeah, and actually, now that I'm looking at it, no, that one's different. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we had our last. I went a couple days between Christmas and the rest of my viewing, And we did a little bit on New Year's Eve, and I could tell you about it, except we don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
So,
I'll be
I
talking
made
about
it.
it next time.
What's that?
We'll be talking about Bruno again next time.
So I made it out to the theaters on New Year's Eve for a double header, and it was actually it turned out to be a triple header, which I had not planned. And I planned it beautifully because I saw one movie was showing before another one, and I got out of the theater and went directly to meet the person I was going to meet for the second movie. So the first movie actually ended up being a short film called Far from the Tree, which is a really cool, kind of heartwarming little tale about a raccoon and his son. And they're on a beach up in New England, and the son learns harsh lessons about survival. And then it cuts to the next generation where he's trying to teach his own son. And it's a really nice little short. It's not long. It's maybe 6-7 minutes, something like that. It's just a real nice little movie, pretty heartwarming. And of course, it's not even in contention for short this year. And you know what? I think Disney pulled the same crap they did with the other movie I'm about to talk about, because they submitted Us Again, which is the lovely short that played before Raya and the Last Dragon. I think they only submitted one short because they didn't want to compete against themselves. But that is unbelievably rude and unfair to the people who made this other short, which is quite wonderful. So it's like, I'm a little ticked about that. But
20-something and Nona also being on that list. That's pretty sad. Because
Nona
and 20-something were also on that
list. Right. Were they also Disney productions?
They were also Disney productions. They may not have been produced directly. Yeah, but they're owned by Disney.
Yeah. So the primary film that we went to see, again, I kind of joked about, was Encanto, a new film set in Colombia about the family Madrigal, set to songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and the breakaway hit, which has become a meme and also probably the most popular song of any movie that came out this year, is We Don't Talk About Bruno, which is a great song. And the problem is Disney only submitted one song for consideration. Dos Orejitas is the only song in consideration. So even though everyone who watched a movie this year knows We Don't Talk About Bruno, it's not even eligible for the Oscar. And that's what? It makes no sense. But at any rate, Encanto is a great film. It is one of Disney's better films. And while I still think Moana had the better soundtrack, I still think Lin-Manuel Miranda makes some of the best soundtracks that Disney has had. And they are a perfect fit for each other. And I look forward to seeing what else they do in the future. And it's just a fun movie about a family who was escaping a dark force. The father, the paterfamilias, gave himself so that the community could go on, and his wife and children are gifted this magical home where when the children come of age, they have special gifts. And so do all of their children, except for Mirabelle, who is our protagonist of the story and is also the black sheep of the family because she's not special. But, you know, that leads to the whole thrust of the plot, basically. But it's a good movie. It's a lot of fun. And I will hold the third one until, after you discuss yours.
Well, I ended out the month. Really, I didn't watch any movies oddly enough, on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. I watched the last film I watched of the year was on the 27th. It was a twofer technically, but I just keep these together, which is Psycho Santa 1 and 2. They were released by SRS Entertainment, apparently on limited release with Sister Krampus, which I didn't get that one, but it was a Psycho Santa was this. I'm trying to think of the plot of Psycho Santa. I really didn't have much that I cared about for it. It was an okay enough slasher film with another like Santa slasher kills everybody theme. But it was all right. Nothing huge. I think I was back to work at that time, so my memory of it was kind of it was kind of in the background as things were going. But I guess an okay ender. The year ended with a whimper as far as my viewing went. Though I did watch a lot of Have Gun Will Travel in between.
Oh, very nice. Which probably left you whimpering quite a bit, right? So, on contrast, my year ended with a little bit of a bang. You could say a multiversal bang. I followed up Encanto immediately with Spider-Man No Way Home, which was was that?
No spoilers.
I know. That's got to be tricky. It's going to be very tricky, especially because some of the spoilers were already spoiled months ago. Sony and Disney and Marvel tried their best to hide so much from audiences that they didn't. They kind of failed. But some things still caught me very off guard. There were some things that were not spoiled, and I will not spoil them here. But suffice it to say, Far From Home, or No Way Home, I always confuse those titles. No Way Home picks up where Far From Home left off, with Quentin Beck, a.k.a. Mysterio, having leaked a video where he tells the world Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And, of course, J. Jonah Jameson, who in this version is essentially your friendly neighborhood Newsmax host, makes you think, goes on the warpath against Spider-Man. And so a lot of the movie has to do with Peter trying to be Peter and the world not letting him. But also him realizing that he kind of mucked it up for the people in his life. Not just him, the people in his life. And so he goes to Doctor Strange, desperately begs for help setting things right. And I'll leave it at that because it starts getting into spoiler territory at that point. Like I said, some of the spoilers are some of the worst kept secrets of the past several years, and you all probably know half of them at least. But suffice it to say, there's a lot of people in this movie. Some of the appearances are quite fun. There is one that's a straight-up cameo that is going to be a nominee for the Versus Awards. I will see to it. But it is a good, solid film. The people are saying best movie ever. I don't know about that. I would say Into the Spider-Verse is a better Spider-Man movie. But it's at least on par with Spider-Man 2, and that's impressive. So I would definitely give it props, and it was a pretty darn good way to go out for the year,
Well, I guess that's it for the month of December. I hope you've enjoyed this recap. I'll have it up sometime in the future. Who knows when? It will be up before the month is out. And I hope you all have enjoyed this. Of course, if you have, click that like button. If you like us, hit that subscribe button. We can always use more subscribers, as could be there. And hopefully, we will see you again on the next. Bye-bye.